So 266 today we're talking about some standouts in yesterday's matchup between Calgary and Colorado. And a really intriguing game. I think Calgary they ended up winning this one in a shootout and quite surprising to say the least because I thought that Colorado was going to make a comeback and they were going to able to win this one in overtime. And they had some chances. McKinnon had some chances, McCarr had some chances, and Marty Necas had some chances. And a lot of the guys in OT, every time they kept sending guys out, they were creating a lot of volume, but they weren't able to get it in the back of the net. There were a lot of shots in overtime that were going off the post or going wide, or it looked like they were going to go on the net, but ended up missing. And this was on both sides. This just wasn't just Colorado's side. This was both sides. But starting with some standouts in Colorado, I think, I mean, obviously Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. Cale Makar, we'll talk about him a little bit more because he had a sick goal, a little head fake deception. He was able to read the play with his eyes up, and he cut across the slot, was able to break Mackenzie Weegar's ankles in terms of the movement, not literally, but just because of the movement, and it caused Weegar to stumble. And he tried to recover going the opposite way. Makar was moving into the slot. He had the puck loaded on his forehand side and then just released it towards the far side of the net and was able to score his 28th of the season. I mean, Nathan McKinnon, it feels like every time we talk about Colorado, we always talk about him. I mean, what he does is pretty self-explanatory at this point. I think everybody knows how powerful he is, how much offense he's able to generate, and how reliable he is in every single zone for Colorado, and just how much of an offensive weapon he is at this stage of his career. And outside of that, I think Logan O'Connor is really good in this game. I think it's one of the better showings I've seen from him. He's become more consistent as a regular bottom six player in their lineup, and I think ever since the last few years when he started to join in the league around full time in around 2022 or 2023. I can't remember which year, but he just continues to be reliable in all situations. A guy who works his bag off, works his tail off. He's got an unbelievable work ethic in terms of how he forechecks, how he tracks back, how he recovers in D zone situations, how he positions himself as a winger in D zone to shut down the walls, stuff like that. And similar with Parker Kelly too. I think Parker Kelly has been an underrated addition to the bottom six of Colorado, who can provide some speed, forechecking, tenacity, good anticipation in terms of his off puck play and very reliable in those situations. Another guy who's really noticeable, he had a flashy play. He almost scored an end-to-end goal in this game was Devontae's. And Devontae's vastly underrated, obviously. Really, I think if he was on another team outside of playing with Makar, I don't know if he'd be the same defenseman or he'd still be able to sustain this impact, but he's an elite defenseman. He has elite underlying numbers too in terms of expected goal numbers, his differential in terms of shots, his ability to limit shots against, his ability to control line rush scenarios and just be in all situations defenseman. I think that's what Devontae's does really well, and it really allows him to be able to take control of games in an underrated way, and in a way that allows him to be able to be involved offensively, but also defensively and in transition. Ross Colton was also effective. Charlie Coyle very effective, and I think Jack Drury was a little. He was okay in this game. He had some spurts where he was popping a little bit more than other situations. Mostly in the second period is where I noticed him. But outside of that, really notice him that much. As for Calgary, ironically, their fourth line was the one line that was showing up. They had two goals, I believe, within a minute of each other from Adam Klapka, and then, or actually, first it was Ryan Lomberg, and then it was Adam Klapka with a tying goal. So Klapka tied it at two, and then eventually we obviously know that Calgary made the comeback complete when they won in a shootout. And those two guys, ironically, their fourth line had the most goals of anybody in the game. So which is really interesting. And if it wasn't for the fourth line, they wouldn't have won this game. So kudos to them. They're just creating a lot of havoc. Adam Klapka, Ryan Lomberg, were just very noticeable. And Ryan Lomberg's not like they're both north-south players. I think Adam Klapka could really evolve into something for Calgary longer term. Like we see the trend of the bigger players in today's game, how they continue to make more of an offensive impact. I think with the recent rise of Alexi Protas on Washington, we could see more bigger players do the same style of impact. And I'd be curious to see which ones are able to do so. I think Adam Klapka could be one of those. He's got a really underrated shot, really underrated playmaking touch. He is obviously a fourth line player, but I think longer term you might be able to get something a little bit more out of him. And he plays a very physical game, very reliable as a checker, very reliable defensively, can play shutdown minutes, but also play the offensive side of the game when needed and can be reliable in those situations. I thought Mackenzie Weegar, outside of the goal that he let up against Cale Makar, where he tried to forward gap him up, tried to surf and tried to cut it off with his stick, and he just completely missed it. Outside of that, I think he was effective for the majority of the game, even through overtime. I think he was just making a lot of impact, a lot of subtle details in his game that stand out. When you watch Uyghur, you're not going to notice a ton of offensive flash or finesse or anything like that, like we see out of many of the premier offensive style defensemen. I think Mackenzie Weegar is an offensive defenseman, but I think he's like a slightly lesser version of that. Like he's not a Quinn Hughes, he's not a Cale Makar, he's not any of those type of players, but he's an offensive defenseman who can provide impact in his own way. I think he does a steady job of it and can also provide some two-way ability as well. And I think Uyghur, he doesn't get as much credit. He has to play a lot of minutes on this team. He has to be relied upon in a lot of different situations for this team, and they're pushing for the playoffs. They're right on the brink, and he's been an underrated part of this team. So I'm curious to see how he continues to evolve with Calgary longer term. But in this game, it was just he was exciting to watch in terms of the details and how he's able to use his stick, how he's able to use his feet in certain situations. Again, outside of the Makar goal, I think defending line rush, he was noticeable. Defending entries, he was noticeable. Keeping guys to the outside, he was noticeable. He was noticeable one-on-one in D-zone coverage and swarming to guys quickly in the corners, getting on guys quickly, gapping up quickly, and just was providing a overall sustained impact. And then Matt Coronado is a guy who I've really liked and has continued to get better throughout the last, I would say, 3-ish months or so, especially has really ramped it up. And it's just continued to become more effective as a playmaker and a goal scorer who can be offensively reliable, defensively reliable, and play more of a transition game. I've noticed the thing that's improved the most within his game is how he uses his hockey sense and how he's making quicker decisions with the puck. And there's less hesitation in this game. There's more assertiveness in how he attacks to the neutral zone, how much more assertiveness in how he gets through the dots and inside the dots and how he's able to attack there. I think he's reliable in those situations too. He's underrated as a transition player. I mean, obviously, I think the biggest flaw when it comes to him is his skating. Like, there's a little bit of an awkward posture when it comes to how he moves and how he forward strides. I think outside of that, he's a player who could really continue to evolve. He's already a top nine player playing power play one with Calgary at the net front. And I think he can really evolve into more of a top six contributor over time with Calgary. He's in the right system. He's around the right players. He's playing good minutes. I think he has deserved everything he's played for this far. He's just continued to get better, work at getting better, and he looks better. He looks more polished as a player ever since getting drafted a few years ago. And I think there's a lot more potential in his game longer term as well.